Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Yasharal and Yahuda, grafted in Gentiles into the body of a Mashiach. This is none other than Hezekiah. Listen, the song is entitled Blood of the King. See, without the shedding of blood, there's no remission of sins, bro. That blood, there's no return, bro. There's no establishment of the kingdom without the blood, bro. Yahuwah, I thank you right now for the blood of Yahusha HaMashiach. I thank you that Yahusha HaMashiach, after the order of Melchisedek, went into the heavenlies, the holies of most holies, and presented his blood as the lamb for the remission of our sins. And we who have received this witness, the water, the blood, and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, are established in your kingdom. And I thank you, Yahuwah. You've called me to declare to your people that they must receive the witness of the Yahusha Mashiach. My prayer is that they would receive this witness. Yahuwah, I pray that you take the reins of my lips and the reins of my tongue and reign by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. I've received the witness of Yahusha through Yahukanan. I've received the witness of Yahusha through Yahukanan the immerser and Yahukanan the apostle, both declaring that you would baptize us with the Ruach HaQodesh. Yahuwah, I give you praise. I pray that those who receive this witness would recognize that they're a part of a remnant and that the blood of Yahusha that was precious, the establishment of the Melchisedek priesthood was precious. Yahuwah, that they would receive this witness. Yahuwah, I pray that no one would be turned out of the way this day. No one caused to stumble, none to come up lame. Yahuwah, I praise you right now for the blood of Yahusha HaMashiach, of the blood that was shed for an everlasting covenant. I give you praise. Yahuwah, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight. Yahuwah, I pray right now in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach that those who have an ear to hear would hear, that the enemy would not have hold of their minds and their hearts. Yahuwah, I pray in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach that your witness, Yahuwah, your witness would continue to go forth in power. And I declare it to be so in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach. Listen, man of Yah, woman of Yah. It is the blood of the king, right? Listen. We're going to listen to that again. We're going to get that one again. We're going to listen to that again. Because it is in the blood of Yahusha Mashiach. As we get closer to the end. Man, I love this Ak. I love this Ak. Hezekiah. I love this Ak. See, you have to recognize Yasharal and Yahuda, right? That, let me say this, we the people of the book broadcast is going down on this Shabbat. Our objective is to reach those with the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach that Yahuwah has chosen. We are for the Yahudim first and to the nations, right? Listen. It's in the blood of Yahusha. The witness. Listen, there's no turning without blood. There's no returning without a sacrifice. There is no returning without a priest. There is no return without a priest, and it has to be a high priest that offers up the offering, the sacrifice. And the order of the Levitical priesthood is ceased. It is faded away. But the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach, the priest after the order of Melchisedek, has established this priesthood that is forever. Yahusha went into the holies of holies once and for all. to establish a kingdom for his people. He took dominion back from Hasatan. He was establishing the order of Adam and Ava, the original kingdom order. We must receive that Ruach that they had, that they lost. We must enter into the rest that they were taken out of. In Yahusha HaMashiach's witness. This is that rest. This is that eternal sacrifice. This is that witness. Yahusha HaMashiach. There is no other name given unto men whereby they must receive Yeshua. At the name of Yahusha HaMashiach, every knee is going to bow and every tongue is going to swear. His blood is the blood of the eternal covenant. His blood, Yahusha, the blood of the king. The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, or a lawgiver from between his feet to Shiloh come. Man of Yah, woman of law, listen. This witness is everything. This witness is everything. Everything. Be not deceived. This witness is everything. You are not going to survive. You are not going to make it without the seal. Listen, Yahusha's order was established at the point in which he came to the Retz, took dominion over Hasatan, went into the Shamayim, after being raised by the power of Yahuwah, presented his blood on the altar in the Shamayim in the holies of holies, right? And Yahuwah saying that he was eternally satisfied with this sacrifice, this offering, right? And that he has established his order, Melchisedek, Yahusha's order. He has established this order, and this order has been in place since the time that he has been resurrected. This order has been in place. The old order is faded away. You can't even find a high priest. You can't even find the altar. You can't make an altar, because Yahuwah establishes where his altar is going to be. You can't look to Ashkenaz, because whatever they make is not inspired by Yahuwah. Listen, you can't look to your Hebrew brethren, because you don't have no Hebrew brethren that you can identify as a priest. And listen, Yahusha's order is superseded and trumped it. You have to come through the order of Melchisedek. You had to receive the witness of Yahusha. We in Hebrews. Again, as I told you, I'm going to always start at the first verse of Hebrews. The first chapter. Right? Because Yahuwah has, at sundry times and in diverse manners, spake in time past unto the fathers by the prophets. Hebrews. Yahuwah has already spoken by the prophets. He's already spoken by the prophets. Right? It's recorded. It's prophesied. It has been spoken. Right? And haveth in these last days spoken unto us by Yahusha HaMashiach, his son, whom he has appointed heir of all things, in the Shamayim and the Eretz and in the deep, every kingdom. Yahusha has dominion. He has all power. Listen, you can't tread on Yahusha. You can't tread on the Ruach Ha'Qodesh and make it. You are going to die. You're going to burn. Listen, Yahuwah has spoken by his son Yahusha, who is the brightness of his glory and the express image of his person, upholding all things by the Torah of his power, Ruach Ha'Qodesh. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh of truth. Everything Yahusha ever said was what his father said. He spoke Torah. He upheld everything by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh which he received when he was being baptized. And he came up out of the water, and Yahuwah witnessed to it. Yehukanan said, listen, I beheld a dove descending upon him, and he who sent me told me that when I see this, the individual that comes up out of that water, having received the Ruach Ha'Qodesh without measure, which Yahusha had, right? He was going to baptize with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. He was going to sanctify his people amongst the nations. Enoch said it this way. Afterward, in the 7th week, a perverse generation shall rise, and abundant shall be its deeds. And all the deeds shall be perverse, but during the completion of righteousness, the righteous shall be selected. The righteous shall be selected from an everlasting plan of righteousness, and to them shall be given the sevenfold doctrine of creation. They are going to have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is the spirit of truth. It is the spirit of wisdom and revelation. It's going to reveal the sevenfold doctrine. You ain't going to understand anything without the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You aren't going to understand anything without having received the witness. You're not going to receive anything if you ain't chosen. Listen, listen. He said, after Yahusha HaMashiach, right? Because it says here in Enoch, the 9th verse, it says subsequently, we're going back to the 4th week. Subsequently, right? Subsequently in the 4th week, during its completion, the visitation of the Holy One and the righteous shall be seen. The order of the generations after generations and the inhabitation shall be made for them. This is the week when Yahuwah had established a people. He had established himself to Moshe, and he established an habitation that was made for us, right? The nation, right? Then in the 5th week, during its completion, the house of dominion shall be erected. Listen, the house of dominion is Yahusha's house. It is his kingdom. It's the establishment of his kingdom. It's the establishment of his kingdom. The house of dominion was the establishment of his kingdom in the Eretz. And after that, in the 6th week, all those who are in it shall be darkened. The nation is going dark. Yahusha said, working the work while it is day, because when darkness comes, no man can work. Listen. He says, shall be darkened, and the hearts of all of them shall be forgetful of wisdom, and a man shall arise and come forth, and during its completion he shall burn the house of dominion with fire, and all the race of the elect shall be dispersed. Listen, that's what Rome did. And the world became darkened. Hebrew, listen. I don't care what you say. You have to receive the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. You have to. Because after the apostles and the prophets, it went dark. But you know what happened during that time, right? Yahuwah recorded the events. Yeah. He recorded the events, the Besoros, the Acts of the Apostles, right? He recorded them. Romans, Corinthians. He recorded them for what purpose? For us. So that we can understand what it looks like once we have been awakened. And once we have turned in the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, we would know what it looks like. But see, what Christianity has done, it has taken, Constantine took it, he took the books, he took the manuscripts, he took everything that we had, right? And it eventually got put into a canonized book, right? And they put their spins and twists on it, right? And they put their doctrines and philosophies on it. And we bought into it. We bought into it. We became darkened. Why do we end up continually in captivity? Because we were darkened. We were darkened. We forsook our laws, statutes, and commandments and bought into the idea that the commandments were done away with. There's grace in Mashiach, or there's grace in Jesus, right? Bro, you better get a clue. You better get a clue. Yahusha is that righteous branch. This was recorded for us in our time that we may establish Emunah in this awakening and turn to Yahusha HaMashiach and not turn back to the Torah. Right? And being established in the Torah only. You bumped your heads. What? You can't. You can't turn in the Torah without having a high priest and an offering. And he has to be able to go into the holies of holies to make that happen. How are you going to do that? How? How are you going to do that, Hebrew? You who has spoken, you better hear him. You better hear him. He has spoken through his son Yahusha. You better hear him, bro. You better hear him. He says, therefore, in chapter 2, verse 1, we ought to give the most earnest heed to the things which we heard. Lest at any time we should let them slip. That's what he said to Yahusha HaMashiach. That's what he's saying in reference to those who received the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. Listen, if we receive the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach and we are Hebrews, then we better watch what we listen to and not allow it to slip. Let these people run it, and you know what they want to get in so bad, and they're driven. They're driven by this satanic, demonic idea that there is Yeshua in the Tanakh and the Torah and Yahuwah only. Yahuwah ain't listening to you. He wasn't listening to your fathers. They came and inquired of Yahuwah. Yahuwah said, will you be inquired of me? You and your fathers are wicked. Listen. He only returning for those who he has chosen. I see. Yahuwah put his Ruach in Dawid because he chose Dawid. Dawid had his Ruach Ha'Qodesh. He chose Dawid. Right? He chose the kings. He anointed the kings. He put his Ruach in the kings. He didn't put his Ruach in everybody. He put his Ruach in the prophets. He allowed them to see things. He allowed some of them to do miracles. Everything that Yahusha fulfilled, everything Yahusha fulfilled, completed, was a result of it being a shadow, because he was the original. You better not let these things slip. For if the word that was spoken by angels was steadfast, excuse me, if the words that the angels spoke were steadfast, which means they were going to come to pass. Oh, they came to pass. Every word, steadfast, and every transgression. That's why even amongst us now as a nation, we got to be careful about what we say and do, because the angels are going to hold us accountable for the words that we speak, because they're Yahuwah's messengers. If they give a word, you don't receive that word, guess what? There's going to be some steadfastness. There's going to be some just recompense. There is going to be some wages paid. How you going to escape, Hebrew? How you going to escape? How you going to escape if you neglect so great a Yeshua? How you going to escape? Which at first had begun to be spoken by Yahusha HaMashiach and was confirmed. Yahusha HaMashiach spoke this Torah, this Besorah. And it was confirmed in us because we received the witness and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, and we have it and given it to you, Hebrew. Listen. Chapter 3. You got to consider Yahusha HaMashiach the high priest. Right? You got to consider Yahusha HaMashiach the high priest. Right? Because the order of Melchisedek is the first and original order. Right? And Yahusha has established that order. Right? Yahuwah established that order. In the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, that order was established. Yahuwah testified to Yahusha. Yahuwah testified to Yahusha, Abba Father, in the Shamayim, the Word, and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh testified to Yahusha HaMashiach in the earth. Yahuwah said concerning Yahusha, this is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. He said it, and he spoke the Word, the Torah. And then he said his approval on Yahusha by him receiving the Ruach HaQodesh without measure. He had all power in the Shamayim and the Eretz. Yahusha is that king. He is that scepter that shall not depart from Yahudah. He is that lawgiver. He is the order of Melchisedek. Listen. You better consider Yahusha. He's the high priest. And he was not selected from among men. Yahusha was sworn to the priesthood by Yahuwah himself. Yahusha has swore a word. He spoke a word and he sealed it with a swear. Not like a swear profanity, but he swore by his word. Listen. Yahusha HaMashiach is that high priest, right? Moshe was faithful in all his house, right? For this man was counted worthy of more glory than Moshe. Inasmuch as he who built the house, Melchisedek, have more honor than the house, the copy. Yahweh, your word is so beautiful. I love your word. His word is so beautiful, man. I love the word of Yahuwah. I trust the Ruach HaQodesh like you would believe, like nobody's business. Listen, for every house is built by some man. Listen. Even the tabernacle that Yahuwah had Moshe to build was by hands, man's hands, right? These priests were made, right? These priests were men, right? Yahusha was the son of Elohiym. All things are built by Elohiym. And Moshe was very faithful. Moshe was verily faithful in all his house, a servant for a testimony to those things which were to be spoken. Right? Let's look at something. I'm going to go here for a second. Right? This is to reiterate, right? Yahuwah, right? Deuteronomy. Let's see. And he said to Moshe, what is this? Yahuwah said in Deuteronomy 31:16, right? He says, and Yahuwah said unto Moshe, behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers. Right? Because you have been faithful over your house. You're going to rest with your fathers until the time which the kingdom is established in the earth. Right? You're going to rest with your fathers. Right? Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers, and this people will rise up and go a-whoring after other else of the strangers of the land. What make you think, bro, you going to do anything different from them? And they had the high priest constantly offering sacrifices. Every day the high priests were offering sacrifices for the tabernacle they were before the tabernacle offering sacrifices daily. Aharon, the high priest, right? For 40 years, he went into the most holies of holies, offering sacrifices on behalf of the people. And the people were still stubborn and rebellious. For 40 years, Moshe was teaching them the Torah, because Yahusha gave them the Torah, but they rebelled against it. Had the Torah, right? And Yahusha gave them the image. Yahusha told Moshe to make it like thus. Receive instructions on how to conduct themselves, how the high priest was, because Moshe was a priest. How Aharon, his brother, was a high priest. His sons were priests. And how they were to conduct business. And they did it for 40 years, and these people, your brethren Hebrew, your brethren, ones that run around here talking about Tanakh only, Torah only, Yah only, they the same people, the same ancestors. What you turning to? Yeah, you awaken, but what you turning to? Because you're going to end up just like your fathers. You're going to do what they did. Because you can't do it. Yahusha says, well, this people will rise up and go a-whoring after other elves of the strangers of the lands. Listen, these people, right, they were getting ready to go in the land, right? Joshua had to circumcise all the men. They hadn't even kept circumcision. 40 years. They were supposed to circumcise their male children on the 8th day. They didn't do it. Joshua had to circumcise everybody. They didn't keep you as Torah then. You ain't gonna keep your Torah now. They didn't keep the Torah. They didn't keep the Tanakh. They didn't keep the original covenant. That's why when they came to Ezekiel and they wanted to inquire of you were like, how dare you inquire of me? You're wicked. You're wicked. Your father's wicked and you've been wicked. It can't be established in the Torah alone and the Tanakh alone without having turned, without having a sacrifice, without having a priest, a high priest, without having a most holies and a holies of holies. You got to have the Ark of the Covenant. You got to have all of that stuff. How you going to turn? How is it possible? How are you going to do it? You can't. You stop lying to these people. Stop deceiving them. The only order that's established in this earth now is the order of Melchisedek, and that is Yahusha Mashiach's order. He said to them, he said, listen. He said, they're going to rise up and go a-whoring after gods of the strangers of the land. They ain't even gotten into the land good. Whither they go to be among, and will forsake me and break my covenant. They gonna break my covenant, right? They gonna break it. They gonna break the laws. They ain't gonna honor. Exodus 20. Exodus 20. Exodus 20. Exodus 20. And Elohiym spake on these words, saying, I am Yahuwah thy Elohiym, which have brought thee out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of the house of bondage. Commandments. You shall have no other gods before me. What were they going to do? They were going to go right into the land and serve other else. They was going to break this covenant. This part of the covenant, right? He says, thou shalt not make any graven image. They're going to go right into the land and make graven images. and anything in the likeness of the heavens above, or in the earth beneath, or anything in the water, the marine kingdom. Listen, they're going to go right back into the land and start worshiping these deities. They're going to take the gods of the lands. Yahuwah says, thou shalt not bow thyself down to them, nor serve them, for I am Elohiym, thy Elohiym, and I am a jealous Elohiym, visiting the iniquities of the fathers unto the children, to the third and fourth generation. Bro, you know who you are now. What you gonna do? What your forefathers did. If you don't receive the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, if you don't receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, if you don't accept Yahusha's order, Melchisedek, the high priest order that has replaced Aharon, guess what? You are going to be just like your fathers. You're going to be pounded into powder. He's going to purge you out. You're going to be gathered up as sticks, thorns, and thistles to be burned. Listen, you got to understand, man. There's no establishment in this. That's why Yahusha said this is what they're going to do. They're going to break my covenant that I made with them. And then my anger is going to be kindled against them in that day, and I will forsake them, and I hide my face from them, and they shall be devoured, and many evils and troubles shall befall them, and they shall say in that day, are not these evils come upon us because of our Lord not among us? Now that's what happened in the awakening. And that happened with me. I can remember the day I realized who I was. And I wept before Yahuwah on my couch. Only one in the house. Hands in my face. Weeping before Yahuwah. Because I recognized that who I was that which we were living out. We were the people. Now, what did that mean? Okay, that means I needed to do something different. I needed to turn. I needed to turn to him. And you know what? I was listening to a lot of other people. It wasn't until Yahuwah reeled me in and said, no. This is what you need to do. Because this is what I told you to do. This is what I command you to do. That's why I do this. And that's why I do it by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Because when I do what Yahuwah tells me to do by the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, I know it's producing fruit. I don't care if I don't see the fruit. I know the fruit is being produced because he got me doing it. But I turned. I turned to faith in Yahusha HaMashiach's witness. I turned to the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. I continued to pray in the Ruach and sing in the Ruach and dance in the Ruach. I continued to lay before my faith and fast, as Yahusha said, that we would fast in that day. Listen. You better get a clue, bro. You better get a clue. He said he's going to turn his face towards us. He turned his face towards us. He says, and surely I will hide my face in the day for all their evils. Listen, we left 70 AD and went in captivity. And initially, we who had received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, we continued in the Torah and the Besorah. We kept faith in Hamashiach. But the tentacles of Christianity was pulverizing people. And you know, they was taking our children and telling us we had to bow and receive Christ, the Mashiach, Jesus. And we accepted these religions, some of us under pressure and some of us willingly. Right? That's forsaking Yahuwah. Because he wasn't Jesus. He wasn't the Lord. He wasn't God. They took our book and they flipped it. Had us worshiping on Sunday. Had incorporated all these other deities into our history. This ain't that. And you're going to turn back to this? Because you know who you are now? Yeah, we were scattered. We was an identityless people. We didn't know who we were. All we knew that we were slaves. All we knew that, we were slaves. Came over in ships. But see, Yahuwah's awakening woke us up to the fact that we were the Hebrews that Yahuwah had chosen. And we were under a curse. But Yahusha has made me free from that curse. Oh yeah, the law wasn't a curse. The sin that it brought the curse. And Yahusha set us free from the curse because we received the witness. We've confessed our sins. We have become born again. We received the witness of Yahusha HaMashiach. We have been sprinkled with water. We have received the Ruach Ha'Qodesh of Yahuwah. Hebrew. Better get a clue. Better get a clue. Verse 4, let us fear lest the promise, this Yeshua, this salvation, the promise of entering into his kingdom, right? The promise of entering into his kingdom being left, of entering into his rest, his kingdom, Shiloh, right? Any of you should seem to come short of it. Don't come short of this. Don't come short of this. Don't come short of this. You better take this witness. You better receive this witness. You better receive this witness. He says, listen, those who don't receive it, they don't have emunah. They don't have emunah. They don't believe it. And it's okay, because they're going to die and go to hell. Oh yeah, you're going to die and you're going to go to hell. You're going to be pounded into powder. Oh yeah, you're going to be gathered up and burned. This witness is real. This witness is real. This witness is real. This witness is real. You better believe. Because if you don't believe, you ain't entering to Shiloh. You ain't entering to his kingdom. You ain't entering to his kingdom. Again, he put Adam and Eva out of the kingdom. He put them out of the garden. The garden was a part of the kingdom. He put them out. And then he put an angel with a flaming sword that would not allow them to get back in. They couldn't get back in. Oh no. The angel would have killed them on the spot. You can't enter into Yahuwah's rest without having received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. You can't enter into his kingdom. Listen, Yahusha said, let the man be born again of the Ruach, of the water and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. He cannot enter into the kingdom of Yahuwah. You can't get into the kingdom. Adam and Eva will put out the kingdom. And then they had to work the ground. And then they had to offer offerings and sacrifices. Come on. He had to give Yahuwah a tithe. Cain and Abel were giving Yahuwah tithes. They were offering sacrifices unto Yahuwah. Listen, every high priest is taken from among men is ordained of men pertaining to Elohiym. Every high priest is taken from among men in things to Yahuwah, that he may offer both gifts and sacrifices for sins. The high priest was doing this every day. High priests had to offer sacrifices for themselves every day because they were doing the service of Yahuwah. Their consciousness was never clean. Their flesh had to be clean. They had to offer sacrifices every day. They had the ceremonial wash every day. They had to do this every day. He says, who can have compassion on the ignorant and on them that are out of the way, for he himself also is compassed with infirmities. He can have compassion because he knows what it feels like. He knows what it feels like. He knows what sin is. He has to keep himself straight every day. He's the high priest of Elohiym. He's the priest of Elohiym. And by reason the hereof he ought for people, so also for himself, make offerings for sins. He had to do it for himself. And no man taketh this honor unto himself, but he which is called of Elohiym, as Aaron was. So, listen, Yahuwah calls the high priest. Aaron don't. I mean, men don't. Yahuwah selects him. Yahuwah told Moshe Aaron is the high priest. And then he set his approval on Aaron by making his bud, by his making his staff bud. And everybody else's did. You know what they did? You know what Yahuwah did for questioning the high priest that he had chosen? Right? Because you know Korah, right? Korah was like, he was like, look, man, I should be the high priest. Makes Aaron know. What makes him to be the high priest? I should be the high priest. The people's like, yeah, you know, you should be the high priest. You know, what is that? What makes Aaron any better than you? Hebrews. Messy. Slap messy. Right? So, you know, you would say, okay, I'm going to show you who I'm going to choose. He already knew who he had chosen, but he said, bring your staff. Bring your staff. And the one that buds. Aaron's bud. You know what happened to Korah? Korah got swallowed up in the ground. And everybody, they rah-rahed with him. Fear came upon everybody. But it was only for a season. Because they was wicked. And they was going to die in the wilderness. Listen, the order was flawed. It was flawed. Aaron's sons. Was it Aaron's sons? One of Aaron's sons. Or two of them. They went and offered strange fire. You would consume them. And told Aaron he better not mourn them. Because they did exactly what they weren't supposed to do. Because they were flawed. They were flawed. Hophni and Phinehas were flawed. Pharisees and Sadducees in Yahusha's time were flawed. Verse 6. You better understand what you're up against. You who have received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. You who have received his Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You who have tasted of the heavenly gift and were made partakers in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You. Right? You who have tasted the good Besorah of Yahusha Mashiach and the power to do dynamos and exousia of the world to come. You who have done this. Right? Listen. You better take heed. Because if you turn away from this, you lost. You lose. This is not Christianity. This is not once saved, always saved. This ain't that. This ain't that. This ain't the idea, the concept of unlimited grace. This ain't that. This ain't that. This ain't the idea that Jesus loves everybody. No, this ain't that. This ain't that. This ain't that. This is not this Besorah. No. This Besorah which you've received in the power of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh and have tasted of the world to come, it has set you to eternity. To turn back on that is to crucify Yahusha HaMashiach afresh, and Yahuwah ain't gonna tolerate that. You lose. You lost. Right? You're briars and thorns. You're going to be burned. Hebrews 7. Yahusha. After the order of Melchisedek. Melchisedek. Right? The king of Salem, the priest of the Most High. He was the Most High's priest, right? Who met Abraham returning from the slaughters of kings and blessed him with with wine and bread. He communed with him. He cut covenant with Ivrahim. Ivrahim gave tithe to his order, his Melchisedek order, right? He was the king of Jerusalem, or the king of Salem. Shalom, right? Let's look at that word shalom, or Salem. Shalem.
Strong G 4532. Salem.
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 Right? Salem. Salem. The root of that is to complete, peace, perfect, whole, full, at peace, right? Safe, unharmed, right? He is the king of eternal safety, peace. Nothing is going to harm you. Nothing is going to come against you. No weapon formed against you will prosper because you've received Yahusha's Melchisedek order and have him and the Father in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh in you, right? You have his peace. You will enter into his rest if you continue in this witness. Now listen. He says a priest forever, a king of Shalom, right? Or Salem. Now, in the 76th division of Psalms, it says, in Yehuda is Eluah known, and the nation of Yehuda is Yahuwah known. His name is great in Israel, right? In Israel. In Shalom, in Jerusalem, also is his tabernacle. And his dwelling place is in Zion, Mount Zion. Right. Yahusha. Salem. Yahusha is the king of Salem. He is Shiloh. To whom also Aharon gave a tenth part of all, first being interpreted the king of righteousness, and after that the king of Salem and king of peace. So Aharon met with Yahusha. Again, I tell you, I am convinced in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh that Melchisedek was Yahusha. He was the beginning and the end. He didn't have a beginning, he didn't have an end. It's not possible for a man to not have a beginning and the end unless he's Yahusha Mashiach. Because he was established from the foundations of the earth. Yahusha has always been. Right? So we know the priesthood of Melchizedek is great. Right? We know that the Levitical priesthood, right, was taken from Avraham. Avraham is the patriarch. Levi is the seed of Avraham from Yaakov. Levi was chosen by Yahuwah, Adonai Yahusha, to be the tribe in which the priesthood would be established. It was a shadow. It was not the Melchizedek priesthood. It was a shadow. Melchizedek priesthood was first. Melchizedek's priesthood appeared before Avraham with wine and bread, and covenanted with Abraham, and blessed Avraham. And Avraham paid tithe unto him. Levi paid tithe into Melchizedek, because Levi was yet in Avraham's womb, or Abraham's seed. He was yet in Abraham's loins. Listen, The Melchisedek order is greater and better because it was before Levi. It was the covenant that answered to IVRIYM. IVRIYM answered to Melchizedek. Yahuwah has declared in Psalms that Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, sit thou at my right hand till I make thy enemies thy footstool. Right? And then he says in the 4th verse, Yahuwah have sworn and will not repent. Thou art a priest forever. Who is the priest forever? The one that he has sit on his right hand. Who is seated at his right hand? Yahusha HaMashiach. Not Dawid. Not Dawid. Dawid was never a high priest. Dawid was only a king. Now Dawid got away with doing some things as the king, but it didn't make him a high priest. Yeah, he went in and ate showbread. You know, he did some things. If he would have went into the holiest of holies, he would have dropped dead. But, you know, because only people that was allowed to go in there was a high priest. Listen, man. Listen. Yahuwah is speaking about Yahusha. He's speaking concerning his son. His son, which he has already declared in Adam and Hava would come. He already said it. Seed. How you gonna get past that? He said the seed shall bruise thy heel. You'll bruise your head. Your authority. He's gonna take your authority. He's gonna bruise his heel. It's an exchange. He gonna wound your head. He gonna take your authority. And you gonna bruise his heel. You gonna affect his people after him. Listen, Yahusha's order is greater. Yahusha's order was first. It was established in Yahuwah after the order of Melchizedek. Okay, now. Wait, what did I do? No, that's not what I wanted to do. Hebrews. He says, chapter 8. It says, now, this is the sum of what we have come to as a conclusion, right? We have a high priest in Yahusha Mashiach, right? Who's after the order of Melchizedek, because Yahuwah declared that he was a high priest. Who was before Levi, and Levi paid tithe to Melchizedek. Melchizedek was without beginning or end, so Melchizedek's priesthood is eternal, right? But Levitical priesthood was not eternal only because it was subject. They died. Point blank period. The priest died. They always died. And they never came back to life. They died. They died. Eli died with his fat self. Fell off the back of a chair and broke his neck. He was flawed. Seriously flawed. His sons, Hophni and Phinehas, he was rapist. Listen, they were taking women. They were taking the best of the sacrifices that was to be offered to Yahuwah. They were wicked. They were flawed. priesthood was flawed. It was flawed. It had to be replaced. It had to be annulled. Yahuwah allowed it as a method of covering the nation. But the nation remained in their wickedness. They would return to him. High priest would get himself together and offer a right sacrifice. Yahuwah would hear and he would turn. And they would serve him 40 years or so, rejoicing in with Yahuwah and obeying him and keeping his commandments and walking in his statutes. And, 40 years later, another generation rise up and they go right back to doing what they were doing before. It's the pattern. It's a pattern. It's a pattern, Yasharal. It's a pattern, Yehuda. It's a pattern. It's still a pattern. Right? We're awakened. They're awakened on the continent. They know. They want us to come home. Right? To what? Faith in Mashiach, or just to come home to the ancestral Ruachs? Listen, ain't nothing wrong with going home to the continent. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying, but you better go back to the continent with the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, having received the witness of you and Yahusha. Better go back to the continent, having received the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, the witness of you and Yahusha. This is the sum of the matter, right? We have such an high priest who is seated on the right hand of the throne of the majesty on high in the Shamayim. I just read you that in Psalms 110. Yahuwah said unto Yahusha, sit thou on my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool. Yahusha is seated on the right hand of Yahuwah. He's far above principalities and powers. Now listen, all power and dominion and the establishment of that physical kingdom is coming when Yahusha returns. But we're in that kingdom now, if we remain, continue, and dwell until the end. We have the earnest of that kingdom now, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. We have the earnest of our inheritance in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. This is the witness. Listen, he said it. He says, I have sworn and will not repent. Yahusha has sworn. Yahuwah has sworn concerning Yahusha. He swore concerning the priesthood of Aharon. He just chooses who he think is going to be the best high priest. Chose Aharon. Listen, like priests like people. And if you ain't got no priest, guess what? You definitely ain't got no people. But if you like a Mashiach, right, and you have received this Ruach Ha'Qodesh, then you're like him. And you know what? I've received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, and I am like him. Actually, he no longer is in tabernacles made with hand. He lives in me. Oh, yeah. I am the temple of Yahuwah. Written and read of men. Yeah, I'm the temple of Yahuwah. That's why I don't need, I could literally fellowship with Yahuwah wherever I'm at. Because I have his witness. Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Listen. Hebrews. The ministry of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle which Yahuwah pitched and no man. See, Yahuwah has established his tabernacle in the Shamayim. Right? And he set Yahusha as the high priest over it. Yahuwah is the perfect high priest, and the tabernacle in the Shamayim is the perfect tabernacle. It's the perfect tabernacle. The tabernacle that Yahuwah had Moshe construct was a tabernacle based on what Yahuwah had said. It was a shadow. Right? It wasn't the very tabernacle. Right? Because the tabernacle in Shamayim is pure and holy. Ain't nothing defiled has ever touched anything up in that Shamayim tabernacle. That's why when Yahusha returns, he's returning with the kingdom and the tabernacle from the Shamayim. That's why you have to have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, because the only way you're going to get into this tabernacle is through having received the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, having been born again, having received the baptism of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. These signs will follow them that receive this witness. Listen, and some of y'all have received the witness, the signs ain't following you because you ain't going out to do nothing. You ain't doing nothing. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is in you, but you ain't got no signs because you ain't doing nothing. He said the ministry of the sanctuary and of the true tabernacle, which Adonai Yahusha pitched and not man. Man made sanctuaries. They made synagogues. Agog. This don't even sound right. Agog. Tabernacles were established by man's hands. But Yahusha established this one. Listen. For every high priest is ordained of officers. Every high priest is ordained to offer gifts and sacrifices. That's their job, right? Whereof, of necessity, this man, Yahusha, have somewhat also to offer, right? For if he were on earth, he should not have been a priest, right? Because he was not after Levi. He's not after Levi, right? Seeing that there are priests to offer gifts according to the law, right? Because they were, right? Who served as an example. Who served as an example? The priests that were on the earth were the example, right? Wait. Who served? If he were on earth, he should not be a high priest, seeing that there are priests that offer gifts according to the Torah, right? Who serves to the example and shadow of things to come. Right, okay, so the priests were shadow. They were an example, right? As Moshe was admonished of Elohiym, right? When he was about to make the tabernacle, see, saith he, thou make all things according to the pattern which I've shown you on the mount. So listen, this is the pattern of what it's going to look like. You make it. But it's made with man's hands. And it's not in the Shamayim. Listen, man of Yahuwah, woman of Yahuwah, you better get a clue. Right? This is a new established order. Melchisedek order. There's no returning unless you return through Yahusha Mashiach. There's no returning unless you return to the order of Yahusha Mashiach. There is no returning unless you turn to Yahusha HaMashiach. You have to turn to Yahusha Mashiach. You have to turn to faith in Yahusha Mashiach. You have to turn to faith in Yahusha Mashiach. You can't be established in Moshe. And I'm not talking about keeping the Torah. I'm talking about being restored. Keeping the Torah is only possible through restoration. You can't keep a Torah without having been restored. How you gonna keep a Torah without you still in sin? That's like, okay, I'm in sin, but I'm gonna keep reading this and declaring the Torah. What? If you in Torah, you got to ascribe to the sacrifices. If you Torah only, and Yah only, and Tanakh only, you have to have a sacrifice for sin. You're not exempt. Kadar, go lay down and shut up. You're not exempt. You're not exempt. What you gonna do? What you gonna offer? It's the process. It's not the Torah and Tanakh that separates you. It's not Yah that separates you. It's you. You have to come to yourself and repent and turn. But when you turn, you got to turn to a high priest who can offer sin for you, who can go into the holies of holies for you with the sacrifice that you give him. How you going to do that? How can you physically accomplish that? How you going to get a nation of people who are rebellious and stiff-necked, who are messy and walking dead, to come together, right, and turn to the Torah and the Tanakh and Yah without having a sacrifice and without having a high priest? How? Yahusha is the mediator of a renewed covenant. See, the high priestly one was fault. It had faults. The fault was in men. See, because you have to have the order in order to turn. You have to have someone who can conduct the order of business in order to return. It is a return from us. It's a return to Yahuwah's law, statutes, and commandments through faith in the Mashiach. That's the return. As the people. But you can't do it unless you come through Yahushua Mashiach. Levi was faults. It had faults. That priesthood had fault. It had to be amended. It had to be changed. Because it could never get the job done. Yahusha had the Ruach Ha'Qodesh without measure. He was a high priest after the order of Melchisedek. No beginning, no end. No descendancy, nothing like that. No sin. Right? He ain't even have to worry about going into the Shamayim to offer up sin for himself. He was sinless. All he had to do was offer up what he needed to offer up on behalf of the people. And he was pleased with it. Listen, you gotta get it. Chapter 9, right? Talking about the sanctuary, right? Talked about the priest, right? We talked about the order of the priest, right? Their ceremonial washings and all that stuff. Usually had to do all of that. They had to do it, and yet they were still messy. They had to do it, still yet had consciousness of sin. Right? Those sacrifices covered their sins, took and dealt with their flesh, but the consciousness of sin didn't do one thing for it. Now Yahusha Mashiach. Oh yes, he was a game changer. It's a game changer. It was what Yahuwah wanted to establish in us in the Dam and the Vav. It was a game changer. Right? It was a game changer. We were the people of Yahuwah in the kingdom of Yahuwah that he's going to use to establish his kingdom in the earth. It was a game changer. Levi couldn't do it. Levi couldn't do it. Yahusha had to, right? He said, for verily the first covenant had ordinances and divine sanctuaries, or divine services and worldly sanctuaries. You notice it said divine services and ordinances and the worldly, made by hand sanctuary. A sanctuary that was of this world, not of the Shamayim. A tabernacle that was worldly, but not of the Shamayim. That's why Shamayim's tabernacle and kingdom is coming to the Eretz. And we who are establishing his witness are going in. He says, right? So, for there was a tabernacle made the first, wherein was the candlesticks, the tables, the showbread, which is called the sanctuary. And after the second veil, the tabernacle, which is called the holiest of all. This is that which was made by hand, after the direction and the order that Moshe received it, right? It had golden censers. It had the Ark of the Covenant overlaid with gold, wherein in a pot and manna, Aaron's rod budded, and the tables, or the stones of the covenant, right? It overlaid with cherubims, glory, shadow, the mercy seat, which cannot be spoken of in particular, right? And now when these things were thus ordained, the priest went in first tabernacle, accomplishing the service of Elohiym. So they went into the first tabernacle daily, right? Accomplishing Yahuwah's service, right? But into the second, the high priest alone, once every year, not without blood, which he offered for himself and the errors of the people, right? So he had to offer blood every year for himself and for the people, right? Right? He says that, and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh did signifying that the way into the holiest of all was not yet, right? Because the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is Yahuwah and Yahusha tabernacling in us in the earth. That is the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. That's what establishes us in his kingdom. That is accomplished because Yahusha Mashiach died, went into Sheol, was raised by the power of Yahuwah. He was the Lamb of Yahuwah, the Yehukanan said, that will take away the sins of the world. And when he went into the Shamayim as the priest after the order of Melchisedek, into the most holies and to the holies of all, with his own blood upon the altar, he satisfied Yahuwah's anger towards us. And Yahuwah made available to us the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, which establishes us in his kingdom. And before that, it was the old way. The old way is done away, or the old way is ceased. It is faded away. The priest, the sacrifices, the holies of holies in the earth, the tabernacle, all of that is done in the earth. That's why, how you go? How you gonna do it? How you gonna do it? It faded away. It faded away. Listen, Hebrews 8. He says, listen, in verse 12 in chapter 8, for I will be merciful to their righteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more, those who have received the witness. Right? 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 And then it says, and that he saith, a renewed he hath made the first old. Right? First is old. Right? It's old. It's okay that it's old. People grow old. It's not a bad thing to be old, right? Right? He says, and now that which decays and wax old is ready to vanish away. Listen, Paul was telling you that it was going to vanish away. The only thing that's established hereafter is the Melchisedek order priesthood through Yahusha Mashiach. There is no salvation in no other name. You can't get to this witness. You can't get to this kingdom without having come through a Mashiach. There's no way. There's no way. There's no way, right? Now we left off in this 9th chapter, right, where it says, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh signifying that the way into the holies of holies was not yet made manifest while the first tabernacle was yet standing. Why? Which was the figure of the time when present. It was the shadow. It was the figure. During that time, during those weeks, during that time, during those weeks. Subsequently, in the 4th week, during the completion, the vision of the holy and the righteous shall be seen, and the order of generations after generations, and the habitations shall be made for them. Then in the 5th week, during its completion, the house of glory and dominion shall be erected forever. That's the 93rd division of Psalms, the 9th verse. It talks about how the priesthood order was going to be established. He says, subsequently in the 4th week, the completion of the vision of the Holy One, Yahuwah's vision, his vision of the priesthood, his vision of the Torah and the discipline attached to keeping Torah, right? The vision of the holy and the righteous shall be seen, right? And the order of generations after generations, and a habitation shall be made for them. A place, the land, established, a habitation, right? And in the 5th week, during its completion, the house of glory and dominion shall be erected forever. So Yahusha establishes his kingdom forever. And that's at the completion of the 5th week. So the time from the 4th week to the end of the 5th week, you have this Levitical order established until Mashiach came. And then after Mashiach came, it became darkened again. But it was established forever. He says, the house of glory, the nation, the tribe, the king, the scepter, that shall not depart from Yahudah, or a lawgiver from between his feet, to Shiloh. Listen, it was established. The house of glory and dominion shall be erected forever. It was established. But it became darkened until the time that Yahuwah woke his people up. At the end of the 7th week, he's selecting righteousness from an everlasting plan of righteousness. And unto them is going to be given the 7-fold doctrine of creation. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is going to bring forth the Besorah of truth, the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, the receiving of the kingdom, being born again, and being a part of his kingdom. Listen. You know, you ask yourself, why did it become darkened? Because Yahuwah knew it was going to be darkened. Because Yahusha had already taken dominion from Hasatan, and Hasatan went into overdrive. Right? Because he knew his kingdom was taken by Yahusha, but he went in overdrive. And he made everything dark. But that was only until Yahuwah had to wake us up and seal us. That's why the scriptures were recorded. The renewed covenant was recorded. Right? Just like the original covenant was recorded. The renewed covenant had to be recorded and documented for us so that we would understand in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh the correlation between the original covenant and the new renewed covenant. They're all one covenant for a people that Yahuwah has established. For a kingdom that he has established. Listen, it's all about Yahuwah establishing his kingdom. And it was inevitable that it was going to be darkened. because it was not the day nor the hour. It was not the time for the establishment of Yahusha's kingdom. But what he needed to do was establish the workers in his kingdom during his dispensation. They had to go out and reach as many people as they can, right? And the people they can, the people that they reached for the witness of Yahusha, right? No doubt we're partakers in them. I would even go as far as to say that we might even be descendants of them, because Yahusha had chose them. They produced a testament, right? A renewed testament, right? So that we would understand what this looked like, right? A renewed testament, right? A renewed covenant, right? Not at the not at the old, not at the original covenant being obsolete, right? Because Yahusha said we had to keep Yahuwah's Torah's commandments as he kept the commandments. We had to keep Yahusha said you got to keep my commandments. Yahuwah taught the Torah. Listen, Yahusha gave us examples. He demonstrated what this looked like in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. In the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, we should be doing what this looks like. That's what I'm saying. The awakening is not the quickening. And the awakening definitely ain't the gathering. The return is not the gathering. Man, if y'all want, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is speaking. You need to hear what the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is saying. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh is speaking. You need to hear what the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is saying to the assemblies. Listen. He says, now, which is a figure or a shadow, right? A figure, a shadow, right? Right? It's something that you can use as in comparison. Excuse me. It's a comparison, right? For the time then present, in which were offered both gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the service perfect. Couldn't make him perfect because he was still sinful. The sacrifices did not take away the consciousness of sin. Sin was ever be present consciously. It could be applied and it covered them, but it didn't cleanse them. Offer sacrifice and gifts and sacrifices that could not make him that did the sacrifice perfect as pertaining to consciousness. Now look at that Greek word consciousness. It is
Strong's G 4893. Syneidesis. Syneidesis.
Syneidesis. It says the consciousness of anything, so as distinguished between morally good and morally bad, prompting to do the former or to shun the latter, right? So the idea is that, you know, you don't differentiate between good and bad. I mean, to the extent that even though you have the Torah, you don't have it on the inside of you to make the distinction, right? Because, see, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh in you, Yahusha and Yahuwah in you, witnesses to what is good and what is not. It witnesses to you what is right and what is wrong. It witnesses to you what you should do and what you shouldn't do. The Ruach Ha'Qodesh. right? But they couldn't do that because they didn't have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. They had the consciousness of sin, right? They did. He said, now listen. He says, consciousness, only in meat and in drink and diverse washings and carnal ordinances imposed until the time of Reformation. Now, the ordinances were carnal only because they were carnal. The ordinances were righteous, but they were imposed on them, and it was a reflection of their carnality. Not that the ordinances were carnal. Not that the instructions were carnal. But the ceremonies became ceremonially, they were carnal. They were washings. Listen. Mashiach, having become a high priest of good things to come, right? Because he's after the order of Melchisedek, right? The high priest of Elohiym, right? By a greater and more perfect tabernacle. His tabernacle is in the Shemayim. He's the high priest that has the tabernacle that is the original. He is the high priest after the order of Melchisedek. He is the original, right? Not made with hands, that is to say, not of the building, right? Because we know that Yahusha's tabernacle is in the Shemayim. It ain't made with hands, right? Neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood. So it wasn't necessary for Yahusha to continue to offer up his blood. He did it once and for all. See, in the priest, they had to do it every day. Every day they had to offer sacrifices. They had to present themselves every day. They had to go into once a year. They had to go into the high priest had to go into the holies of holies on behalf of his sins and everybody else's sins, right? But they had to offer sacrifice and do daily stuff, right? He says, neither by the blood of goats and calves, but by his own blood he entered once into the holies of holies and obtained an eternal redemption. He entered into the Shemayim and obtained redemption, right? Now it says for us, which was added, but he obtained redemption for everyone who received the witness. If you didn't receive the witness, then it ain't for you. If he ain't chose you, then it ain't for you. Okay. He says here, for if the blood of bulls and of goats and of ashes and of heifers sprinkled the unclean sacrifices to the purifying of the flesh, right? So if you take the blood of these animals and the ashes, right, and you sprinkle them, right, the unclean, and it sanctifies to the purifying of the flesh, because it purified the flesh. It didn't do anything for the consciousness of sin, right? I look at it as like a blanket. It put a blanket over the flesh, right? Purified the flesh. How much more shall the blood of Mashiach, who through the Ruach Ha'Qodesh offered himself without spot unto Elohiym, purge our consciousness. See, because listen. I have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, listen, and I don't have this conscious desire to sin. I don't have a conscious desire to sin. I don't think about sinning. That's not what's on my mind. I don't think about that because I have been established in this witness, right? And see, you know what? There's nothing that Hasatan can tell me that's going to make me think that somehow, some way, that sin is good. Because the consciousness of it has been removed from me, and I am dead to it. It's no longer a part of me. I am dead to sin. I am dead to the consciousness of sin. He has purified me and put his Ruach HaQodesh in me. sin does not dictate to my nefesh, because my nefesh has the witness, my body has the witness of Yahusha. It is the temple of Yahuwah and Yahusha in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, right? That is the witness on the inside of me that has established me in the kingdom of Yahuwah and Elohiym forever. I do not want to sin. I don't have a desire to sin. And you know what? Even if the enemy throws something up on my head, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh hits me, and I be like, "Oh no, 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 Hasatan, I rebuke you in the name of Yahusha. That ain't me. I know that ain't me. That's you brought that. I cast that down." Oh yeah, yeah. Listen, even in your dreams, sometimes you be sleeping and you be dreaming, and then and crazy stuff pop up, and you be like, "Oh no, Hasatan, I rebuke that in the name of Yahusha Mashiach." I don't yield to that because my consciousness, even as in my sleep, it's still Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You know, I ain't gonna go, even in my dreams, go participate in a bunch of crazy stuff. No, because I have dominion even in my dreams. Oh, y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. Y'all don't hear me. If you in your dreams, and you having dreams, and you yielding to the stuff, and you know it's you, come on. You what? You should have dominion over that consciousness in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Because that's no longer part of who you are. Okay, let's go on. Let's go on. He says, "For if the blood of bulls and of goats and of ashes and of heifers sprinkled the unclean, sanctifying to the purifying of the flesh," right? "How much more shall the blood of Yahusha through an eternal Ruach offer himself without spot, purge your consciousness from dead works, to serve the living Elul." How is that done? Through the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, the water, and the blood. You receiving his offering on your behalf as the high priest forever, replacing Aaron's priesthood, Moshe's priesthood, and entering into the tabernacle, the real tabernacle, not the one made, not the one pitched by hand, right? But the one in the Elohiym, in which Yahusha Mashiach went into the most holies and offered up the blood of the eternal covenant, his blood, right? Cleanse me. Cleanse you who receive the witness. Got to be born again. And again, this is not what you've seen in the Christian church. You know, it's not what you've seen in the Christian church. You know, it's not that. You know, it's right, because I drive Uber, and I listen to this channel. It's a right channel, right? So it's the religious right. And you know, the religious right think a certain way, right? They think a certain way. You know, the religious right think that the woke people are the people that are the ones that are directly in opposition to them, the right. You know, even how they name themselves, right? They're the right, right? They're the right, and we're the left, right? Right? Which in essence, you know, the left is good because even in Hebrew we read from left to right. They don't even see it. Everything about the Hebrew is from left to right, from the bottom to the top, right? Right? But they consider the woke, right, those that are the enemies of the nation. Now, in the woke, they throw in all the gays, the lesbians, Black Lives Matters, the whole idea of this new teaching that they want to teach in the schools with regards to this racial identity thing, and how they need to change their ideology and teach. I can't even think what it's called, but it has to do with minorities anyway. But anyway, the parents and the school districts are fighting against it. And it's interesting because in this fight, in the fighting that they're doing, right, is it's embedded in their belief in Jesus and the Judeo-Christian ethic, right? The Judeo-Christian, right? So they've aligned themselves with the Jews, right? Judeo-Christian, right? So that means is that the Jews and the Pope are all in bed together. They in bed together. Right? And we who are awakened, right? We are their enemies. We're going to be object of their persecution. Are they going to come for us? But listen. We have the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. You better understand this, bro. You better understand this. Because this establishes you in his kingdom. You have to understand this. Listen. Said, for this cause, he is a mediator of a renewed testament. Yahusha. He's the one that you're going to have to go through to access this new renewed covenant. A mediator in the Greek.
Strong's G 3316. Mesites.
He's a Mesites.
Mesites.
One who intervenes between two, either in order to make or restore peace and friendship, to perform a compact, or for ratifying a contract. An arbitrator. Yahusha is an arbitrator. He's an arbitrator of the renewed covenant. He's amended the contract. In its amendment, he has made himself the priest that restores the people, that goes into the holies of holies, that offers sacrifice to provide peace, shalom, between Yahuwah and his subjects, those who receive the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. Not everybody, because he's still going to send the rod. Psalms 110 and 2. And Yahuwah shall send the rod of his strength out of Zion, and he shall rule thou in the midst of thine enemies. He's going to bring his rod, Yahusha. The scepter shall not depart from Yehuda, the rod, or lawgiver from between his feet, a high priest, Melchisedek. And for this cause, he is the mediator of a renewed testament, that by means of death, right? Death, right? By means of death, for the redemption of the transgression, to redeem us who transgress His law, his Torah. See, that's why, he came to us because we were the one that received the Torah, and we were the one that transgressed the Torah. The Gentiles received it without having even had a Torah, the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. But Yahusha came to us because he's talking to Hebrews. He came to us to redeem us by death. For the redemption, the buyback, right, of the transgressions, those who transgress Yahusha's Torah, and he was angry with, and he sent into exile and scattered amongst the nation, whom he has more recently woke up, and who he's called me to tell you that you need to receive the witness in order to be established in his kingdom. You got to receive the witness. You got to receive the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You got to do this thing. He's redeemed you. Under the original testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. Who was under the original covenant? The 12 tribes. Who was under the original covenant? The 12 tribes. The descendants of IVRIYM, Yitzhak, Jacob, the 12 tribes. Right? Right? He says, for this cause, he is the mediator of a renewed covenant, renewed testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgression, he redeemed Yisrael, right? That they which are called, the first testament, those who he have called, might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. That they may end up just like Adam and Eva were before the garden. Before they were booted out of the garden and lost the kingdom and lost the Ruach. Put out. That we may be restored back to that place. Right? That we might inherit the promise. Eternal life. And the Ruach Ha'Qodesh is that promise. Having received the witness of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, that establishes you. That's the seal. That's the promise. That's the earnest of your inheritance. It's a down payment. It's what Yahuwah has given you to get the job done, to restore his kingdom. See, that's what this is about, bro. This is about the restoration of a kingdom. The restoration of a people who understand that the only way into this kingdom is through Yahusha Mashiach. He says, for where a testament is, there must be also the necessity be the death of a tester. Right? So in order for one testament to be replaced, right, the one that was replaced has to die out. Read again. For where a testament, there also is a need for, there must also of necessity be the death of the tester. Now who's the tester, right? The tester in the Greek is
Strong's G 1303. Diatithemi.
The antithemy, right? Which means to arrange, dispose of one owns affairs, right? Something that belongs to one. To dispose by the will and make a testament, right? To make a covenant, enter into a covenant with one, right? So, it's like divorce. Yahuwah divorced us, right? And literally, he couldn't remarry us as the same. Because the Torah said you can't marry a woman that you've divorced again. So, he had to have a new bride in a Mashiach. He had to establish a new testator. Right? because the Levitical priesthood and that order ceased because of the new Melchisedek order high priest has begun and has been established forever. No beginning and no end. It has been replaced, amended. For a testament of force after men are dead, otherwise it is of no strength at all while the tester lives. So Yahusha had to die in order for the establishment of the new Melchizedek order. Yahusha had to die, and the original had to be amended, right? And it could only be done in Mashiach. That's why Yahusha said, keep my commandments as I have kept the Father's commandments. I have kept the Father's commandments, so keep my commandments. Obey me. Obey my Father. For a testament of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength while the tester liveth. So listen, a willing testament is in effect as long as the person who has issued it is deceased. If that person is alive, that testament or or that will, right, is not in effect, because it's only established as a result of the death of the tester or the person who initiated the will. Yahusha HaMashiach, right? Yahuwah has established Yahusha as a high priest forever. He has sworn it, right? The process was that Yahusha's testor was not in effect until Yahusha died. That's why the Levitical priesthood continued until Yahusha Mashiach and the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. The will is not in effect unless there is a death. Right? The testament is
Strong's G 1242. Diatheke. Diatheke.
Yeah, that. Right? It's a disposition, an arrangement of any sort which one wishes to be valid, and last disposition which one makes of his earthly possessions after his death, a will or testament. Right? Right? A compact, a covenant. This Melchizedek order happened because Yahusha died. It is in full effect. He's risen. It's full effect. And we bear the testament of it. We who have received the witness. We who have the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. We who have been sealed. We who have the earnestness of this inheritance. We who have this are his. We are witnesses to this testament. This covenant, whose Levitical order has been amended and changed. Who have to come through Yahusha Mashiach. He says, whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood, right? So both of them had to have blood, right? For when Moshe had spoken every aspect, when Moshe had spoken every precept to all the people according to the Torah, he took the blood of calves and of goats and water and scarlet and wool and hyssop and sprinkled both the book and all the people. They have to receive his blood. You have to have water. But you have to have Yahusha's Ruach Ha'Qodesh. Because those are the witnesses in the Eretz. They've always been the witnesses in the Eretz. Right? Actually, the witness in the Eretz was the water and the blood. But the witness of the renewed, eternal, established witness is the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. The water and the blood. Right? Saying, this is the blood of the testament which Elohiym haveth enjoined unto you. Moreover, he sprinkled the blood, both the tabernacle and all the vessels of the ministry. Everything was sprinkled with blood. Blood of goats now. The blood of calves. But see, Yahuwah's tabernacle was pitched in the Shamayim. And Yahuwah didn't have sin of itself. And Yahuwah went into a Shamayim, which all his instruments are already sanctified and consecrated. But he took the blood and sprinkled it on the altar for you. That's why you got to receive his blood. It's the blood of the eternal covenant. That's why when we drink the bread and eat the wine, we drink the bread and eat the wine. We drink the wine and eat the bread. It's remembering the covenant. That's why when Yahusha, Melchisedek, came to IVRIYM with wine and bread, he was coming in the form of a covenant. He says, listen. Moreover, he sprinkled with blood both the tabernacle and all the vessels of ministry, right? And almost all things are by the law purged with blood, and without the shedding of blood is no remission. Hebrew, Torah, Tanakh, Yah only. How are you going to turn? How? Gotta have blood. And you ain't gonna be able to satisfy the order. It's actually faded away. You can't even find it. Can't find the people. Can't find the high priest that you was chosen. Because he ain't chose no more. It's faded away. From the time of 70 AD, you hear nothing more of a tabernacle. Because it faded away. You hear nothing more of high priest. Because you faded away. You hear nothing more of offerings in a tabernacle. Because it's faded away. And the only method of return is Yahusha HaMashiach's witness. The only way that you're going to be established is in his witness, Yahusha HaMashiach's. He said, listen, and almost all things are by the law purged with blood. Almost. And without shedding blood, there's no remission of sins. Remission of sins. Your sins remitted. What does remission mean?
Strong's G 859. Athesis.
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 to release from bondage or prison, to give a pardon for sin, the remission of the penalty. Okay. So, you know, when a doctor operates, right, on a cancer patient, right, and he believes that he gets it all out, and, you know, and then he puts them on chemo, right, and the idea is to move this patient into a place of remission, right, to a place where there is no evidence of cancer. The evidence of cancer over time is gone. It's not apparent. So, it is remitted, or it's in remission, right? Right? And the hope is that it does not come back, right? The cancer. Without the shedding of the blood of Yahusha, there's no remission. Without blood sprinkled, Hebrew, without the blood sprinkled on you, the water sprinkled on you, there ain't no way. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. There ain't no way. And if you don't want to receive this, and you don't want to believe this, go kick rocks. Yeah, I said it. Go kick rocks. Right, right, right. Don't listen. Don't hear. Go kick rocks. Because you're not worthy of it. You're not worthy of the witness. You're not worthy of the chosen. You're not worthy of the called. If you can't receive the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, go kick rocks. All that Yahuwah has done, Yahusha's done to establish his kingdom, to give you, Hebrew, who he had given the covenant to, your fathers, an opportunity to receive the witness of Yahusha Mashiach, and you don't want to receive it, go kick rocks. You're going to be pounded into powder. You ain't worth nothing but to be gathered up and be burned. You're going to be cut off as a branch. You are the chaff that the wind drives away. You have no value to Yahusha Mashiach. You're no better. You know value to you, and you don't even know it. Therefore, it is necessity. Therefore, it was necessary that the pattern of things in the Shamayim should be purified with these, but the heavenly things themselves with better sacrifice than these. So what they did in the arets was necessary because it was to be a pattern of what Yahuwah was doing in the Shamayim, or what he was going to do in the Shamayim with the blood of Yahusha. Therefore, necessary that the pattern of things in the Shamayim should be purified with these, the blood of Yahusha, right? But the heavenly things themselves was better sacrificed than these. It was better than the blood of goats and of calves. It was better than the water and the blood that was sprinkled by the priest Moshe on the people. Moshe established this. He was the first high priest, and Aharon became the high priest after them. They sprinkled the blood on the people. Pattern of things, right? It says, for Hamashiach is not entered into a holy place made with hands, right? Which are figures, shadows of the true. But into heaven himself now do appear in the presence of Elohiym for us. He's at the right hand of Yahuwah making intercession for us. Nor yet that he should offer himself often. He did it once. He don't need to do it all the time like the rest of the priests. As the high priest entered into the holies of holies every year for the blood, with blood of others. He got to do that. He did it once. For then must he often have suffered since the foundations of the world. He would have to crucify himself over and over and over again. Yahuwah, it ain't necessary. And Yahuwah will never tolerate it. That's why he ain't gonna let you crucify Yahusha fresh. That's why if you've tasted of this Ruach Ha'Qodesh and this word of truth, this power, this dunamis of the world to come, and you turn away from it, you done. You're a thorn and a briar. You're going to be burned. He says, for then must he often have suffered since the foundations of the world, but now once in the end of the world. We at the end. Haveth he appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. We at the end. Hebrew. He's awakened you to return to the renewed covenant, become his new bride. He can marry you again in Yahusha HaMashiach and establish this kingdom in the arrest that he has always wanted to establish. There ain't no other way. Haveth appeared to put away sin, by the sacrifice of himself. He put away sin in me. I received his witness. I don't want nothing to do with sin. And as it is appointed unto men once to die, right? But after that the judgment. So Mashiach was offered to bear the sins of many once, and unto them that look upon him shall he appear, yes, the second time without sin unto Yeshua. Yahusha is going to appear to us and gather us unto Shiloh, establish us in this witness that he has for us. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen. Hebrews, the 9th chapter. Yahuwah, I pray that the words that you've given me, I have given them, that they would receive them in Emunah, that they would be established in this witness, that they would keep your Besor and your Torah of truth. They will understand this renewed covenant. Not at the expense of the old or the original Torah or the commandments that you have given to us to be kept throughout our generations. But you have married a new bride. You divorced old Israel. You've divorced her because of her wickedness. And in Hamashiach, you have established a new bride. You have given us the Ruach Ha'Qodesh. You have taken us in a relationship. You have put your Ruach in us. You and Yahusha, the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, tabernacle in us. We have this treasure in earthen vessels. We have tasted of the Ruach Ha'Qodesh, of the heavenly, and the power in the world to come, and the power of the word of truth, Yahuwah, and we've received your Ruach. Yahweh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. For without the shedding of blood, Yahusha HaMashiach, the Lamb of Elohiym, that taketh away the sins of the world, I thank you for allowing me to be born again of the water and the Ruach HaQodesh, having received your atoning blood. I thank you, Father, that you are no longer angry with me. I thank you for not being angry with me. having given me your Ruach Ha'Qodesh, because I've received the witness. Yahuwah, I pray for those that are under the sound of my voice, that they would receive your witness, that they would be established in your Ruach Ha'Qodesh of truth. I pray, Yahuwah. I pray that you would sanctify the minds, set them apart, Yahuwah, their hearts, in your Ruach Ha'Qodesh. I thank you for this ministry, this Besorah of truth. I will declare your word to all those that have an ear to hear. I pray that they would receive deliverance and healing, and that you would make manifest to them. I give you praise in the name of Yahusha Mashiach. Man of Yah, woman of Yah, listen, that's all we have. Again, the Torah of truth, the Besorah of truth. You've heard it on this Shabbat, and you've heard it from me. You heard it on this Shabbat, and you heard it from me. We the people of the book broadcast. Listen, it went down. We the people of the book broadcast has gone down. It has gone down. It has gone down. It's gone down. And we're going to go out. We're going to go out to some music here. Once I get past this ad, right? We gonna go in on no, maybe not. No, I don't want to exit. Pass the time, it don't matter. Listen, we going out. Where we going out to? Yeah.
Good evening, I'm Kristen Welker in for Leicester. Begin tonight at the new front.
Yashral, you better listen.
That new, more contagious strain of the virus first identified in
Hezekiah.
been found in 2 U.S.
Song is entitled Sorrow.
California. There are new questions about just how widespread
You better get a clue,
this as health officials down at
because only those that receive the witness.
are acknowledging the effort has fallen.
You need to repent, go watch the booth. All of the prophecy coming true. He said his son is down for you. Follow his steps, you make it through. Freddie River dry low. 12 tribes done rise up.
Hezekiah.
You never know when time comes.
Song is entitled Sorrow.
Messiah coming on fire up. Rumors of war be at the door. And the tribulation please ignore. And your patience possess your soul. Earthquakes and pestilence.
Listen.
Come up out of my people. He fought the need so much evil.
Preach, Hezekiah.
He blazes coming, they won't leave. Famine nuclear
Listen.
missiles gon' kill that eagle.
Man of Yah, woman of Yah.
We got angels, they got demons. For the most I
We the people of the book broadcast has gone down. Receive the witness of Yahusha Mashiach. Walk in the Ruach Ha'Qodesh.
Your truth, they truth, my truth.
Because this is that hour.
It's life, it's death, your truth.
This is the end.
No vaccine gon' be some sacrifice.
The only way to be established.
To lose it all to leave afterlife. He plays are coming to the earth.
With that I say, man of Yah, woman of Yah, called to greatness. Women of Yahuwah, beautifully and wonderfully made. Today Yahuwah's favorite you. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom.
Jeremiah 50, pray I see.
Torah Garden, speaking the absolute truth. Torah Nation.